This video is for you if you want to understand the 5 keys of narcissism. Stay tuned to the end, and I'll give you an American Indian bonus tip. So, all humans on this planet are born narcissistic. It just happens. Our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our skin, everything about us is pulling information in from the outside. Yes, you are narcissistic, whether you really wish to or not. You're looking at the reflection of the world, and most of that reflection is your projection onto it. Your projection based on these 5 sensory inputs. Now, there are 5 essential things that have to come from outside. Air for oxygen. Without it, this body don't work. Water for hydration. Without it, this body don't work. We also need earth for food and sustenance. There's just no way you can live without food. I've studied into the breatharians. I'm not going to argue that point. Whatever. If somebody's living totally by breathing, hey, they are much more enlightened and in tune with the quantum field than I am. Which brings me to fire, which is energy, which is warmth, and cooking the food if you eat cooked food. Not only that, but then there's the 5th one, the 5th element. And most people are going to say, well, that's love. Well, the quantum field, all energy is infinite love. We're going to talk about specifically here, sunshine. That's sunlight bringing those special different colors of all the different bands and spectrums of light. Photosynthesizes through our skin. Yes, we do photosynthesize. It makes vitamin D, which doesn't only come from cow's milk, but also those lights, those bands and spectrums of light, that full spectrum light, creates this cascade of particular chemicals in our brain. Have you ever heard of SAD, or seasonal affective disorder? Some people will confuse it with standard American diet. Hey, that'll make you sad. Change your diet, you change your life. But the seasonal affective disorder, I used to suffer from this greatly. Every year, I had this deep depression. And great creativity grew out of it. But it was soul-searing, as they say. I've looked down the barrel of the gun. I've stood on the edge of the cliff. I've stood on the side of the bridge. And I have not done it. Because I decided, you want me off this ride? You're going to take me off this ride. And I know now that I'm not supposed to be taken off this ride because I'm talking to you. So thank you for being the reason I'm still here. Because I'm actually enjoying this. And I hope you are too. In fact, if you are enjoying it, subscribe, like, comment down below anything you would like to hear about the human mind or expansion, awakening, ascension. How can I help you if I don't know what you need? So thank you. Now, we're all reflections of each other. It just happens that way. Anything you see in another human being you don't like, look in yourself and see where it is. Because you're projecting onto them what you don't like. Once you get to the point where you're accepting other human beings just as they are, doesn't make any difference whether it's something you like about yourself or not, then you've gotten to the point where you're whole and complete within yourself and you're realizing that. You're realizing that your life is happening as you. Because whether you see your life happening to you, for you, through you, or as you, it's always happening as you. So you have to not take anything personally. Now, this doesn't mean we get to the point where we're not taking things in. I'll tell you this. Most of our intimate relationships reflect to us our deepest flaws. And it took everything in my being to get to the point where I realized I was just as sociopathic as the people I was involved with. I took that test, 5 different times of that test, and scored nearly 300. My average score was 294 across 5 tests, nicknamed the psychopath test. I was sociopathically codependent. And the thing about it was, I never realized. I'm like, why aren't you pleasing me? I'm doing everything you want. You say you want this. You say you want that. You say you want the other. You say you want me to give up this. You say you want me to give up that. It made no difference what I did. The other person was never satisfied. And I finally realized it was in me, and I had to find it and get it out of me. And I did, which is part of the reason for this channel. And I can help you get it out of you too. The question is, do you want to, and how far are you willing to go? But getting back to your relationships, and my relationships, they reflected to me who I was, whether I liked it or not. You know, I used to say I was brutal, blunt, harsh, and acidic. Well, Mom was brutal, blunt, and Dad was harsh and acidic, and there was some crossover there, you know. But the fact of the matter was, I was the culmination and amalgamation of the two, to the point where I brought out the brutal, blunt, harsh, and acidic in others, and I didn't like it. I was giving as much kindness as I knew how to give, and doing everything I knew to do, but still it wasn't coming back to me. So we're all reflections of each other. So what you see in another person that you don't like, yeah, it sucks, but it's something you're hiding from yourself, either consciously, subconsciously, or unconsciously. And it sucks to admit that. It sucks to admit that. But once you admit it, once you find it, once you look at it, once you examine it, once you love that little child that was taught that and accept that, it makes things a lot easier. Now, most of us, speaking of childhood, are not taught that we are enough. When we're in childhood, because we're small, we're usually taught that we're not enough. You have to have a job to get money. Well, you have to exchange value for value. But you're taught to get a job to get money, which job is just over broke. Just in case you're wondering why you're always just over broke. Then, whether it's religion or some other form, we're taught that God is outside of us and we need a Savior to save us. And this is hard to deal with, because then Mom and Dad are saving us, brothers and sisters are saving us, friends are saving us, somebody's always saving us, or we're always required to save another person. And this is, we're not taught to say, hey, this is our enoughness. I'm enough. I'm whole and complete within myself, and everything I need is within me. And that's what the happy hippie from Jerusalem or Nazareth taught us. You know, he taught us, you are enough. And if you weren't enough, you wouldn't be allowed to be here. And these things I'm doing, healing people and stuff, you can do them too, and even greater stuff than this. So, which brings me to society, culture, and media teaching us that our love, our energetic sustenance, has to come from outside of us. We are individual beings that are God's isness ising. We are basically parts of the great ising its isness for its own sake. Now that kind of seems like it's outside of us, but it's not. We're inside of it. It's inside of us. Every particle of this is light, and every bit of that light is energy, and every bit of that energy is God's thought. I'm not here to debate your religion with you. I'm not here to debate your faith with you. I'm not here to debate your faith with you. However you see it is however you see it, and it's okay for you to see it that way. It's okay for me to disagree and to see it my way. And I grew up the son of a pastor and a pastor's daughter. I myself am an ordained minister. However, I realize that yoga means union, and we are always in union, and how we use that energetic union is what's causing our problems. I mean, let's just look at true love. Okay, for one, true love is based on the need for a savior. Usually the damsel in distress needs a savior, the knight in shining armor. So we have Snow White and we have Sleeping Beauty. Now these two are both very much a direct correlation of the damsel in distress needing to be saved. And then her Savior comes along and, oh, true love, you saved me. Now I get to be with you forever because you're always going to save me. I'll tell you this, I ain't looking for no princess. I want an empress to sit right beside me, to be my partner, to be my equal, to be my co-equal, to work with me, and me work with her, our strengths combining. Because this armor ain't shining. It's scratched in and broken, ripped, torn, and rusty because it gets used. And I'll tell you what, I hope she has her own. Because I've been around woman warriors, and I'll tell you what, I deserve to be with one. And she deserves to be with a warrior that has a kind, gentle heart. But these things coming outside of us, I'm going to make a little aside here about today's feminist rhetoric that actually we both contain the feminine and the masculine, or feminine and masculine. And today's feminist rhetoric, which has the woman believing she needs to be a princess, and then, I don't need you to save me, that creates a dissonance. Also, that creates a dissonance in the men, or the masculinist, who's taught he's supposed to save the female, but yet told you're not saving me. So this is creating this horrible narcissistic dissonance within everybody. Nobody needs to save anybody, but we need to work together. So the I don't need you movement, whether it be masculine or feminine, is destroying everything, and this giant industry corporation princess imprinting is disgusting to me personally, because it's disempowering. It's totally disempowering the feminine. It's not empowering the feminine. So then you have the stories that are the opposite. You have Arthur and Guinevere, and you have Tristan and Isolde. Now here you have the masculine who is defending the feminine, who is his co-equal, in Arthur and Guinevere anyway. And yet she turns on him. Goes off with his best friend when he's wounded, when he's at his weakest. And Tristan and Isolde, Tristan, the Lancelot of the story, the white knight of the story, is escorting the princess who is to become the queen or the empress. And they fall in love. And he screws over not only his benefactor, but also who he's supposed to be with at the end, going to be her protector. So even in the Ancient of Days, we see this narcissistic, masculine, feminine, yin-yang, constant. It doesn't have to be a battle. It's a balance. There's always going to be an ebb and flow and a cycle. We learn. So this brings us to Beauty and the Beast. Now, how am I going to bring Beauty and the Beast and correlate it? Well, the masculine is the beast, and the feminine is the beauty. Now, this doesn't mean some faint little beauty. This means the story is the masculine is the beast, the strong protector, provider. And he must be the beast, because he's got to rip out the foes. He's got to do the hunting. He's got to go out there, and he's got to take care of everything. Now, Beauty is back here, and she's taking care of the home front. And when he comes home, he has to be tamed. Not subservient to, but saying, here, look what I brought you. And this brings me to that bonus American Indian tip I told you about, which is the warrior provides a safe place for a woman to do what she does. By token, the woman does what she does so that the warrior can provide her the safe space to do it. That's where Beauty and the Beast come together. beast is out hunting the buffalo to provide the building for the lodge. He's cutting down the tree poles to build the lodge. Now Beauty's taking those robes from the buffalo and taking that meat and cutting it up to the best of her ability and getting everything done, treating it so that the lodge can be made so that come winter, Beauty and Beast have a lodge and they can provide shelter for each other and home and food. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't know how to cook and to sew and all that stuff that she knows. That doesn't mean that she doesn't know how to hunt and all the things that he knows. In fact, cross-skill teaching is important amongst the two. Masculine and feminine must inform each other. That way, each one is whole and complete within itself. Each one knows I am enough to survive on my own, but isn't it much better when I'm working in teamwork with the other? The other is not completing me. The other is helping me complete myself, while I am helping the other complete itself, while I am reinforcing the enoughness in the other, while I'm making the enoughness that is inside me be enough for the other, so that the other can make the enoughness inside them enough for me. Reinforcing each other's enoughness is important because I am whole and complete within myself. Everything I need is within me. I am enough. I have phenomenal coping skills and incredible healing abilities. Yet, these things don't mean that this earth suit, this human suit, don't get lonely. And believe me, this human suit likes the pretty girls. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. But each person's definition of beauty is personal. Now, it's real simple. I don't need another person in my life. Mother taught me to cook, to sew, to clean. She taught me all of the things I need to do. She told me, you may have a woman, but you won't need a woman. Now, she didn't realize I was a Scorpio, and Scorpio males and females have particular desires. We won't call them needs. But we're going to say that, no, I don't need a woman to complete me. But I like having a woman with me for perspective because she's going to see things totally different from me. Where I see straight line. If I see obstacle, I don't necessarily see go around the obstacle. I see go over or through the obstacle. I'm learning to go around the obstacle, whereas she would see the obstacle and everything around it and say, oh, why don't we go over here to the creek instead of climbing the hill? And maybe we got to walk through the water, but once we get down there, everything kind of flattens out and we don't have to go up over the hill and then down the other, and we got to go through all those briar patches anyway. And you know what? We can catch fish on the way. And not only can we catch fish on the way, see all those pretty flowers, they will make the fish taste better because they're this. And all that lovely chatter that gets all the birds singing. Yes, woman's speech is important for man to hear. So this has been the 5 keys of understanding narcissism. Yes, we're all in these human bodies narcissistic. However, when we take it to the point of blaming the other person and holding the other person, when I hold you responsible for what I'm deciding to feel or experience within my heart and within my being, then I am being the negative form of narcissism. Then I am being the antisocial form of narcissism. Then I am being the one who is wrong in the situation. Instead of building me up so that I can build you up, instead of you building you up so that you can build me up, instead of us building each other up so that we can build each other up, and making sure that communication is working well, narcissism isn't a bad thing if it's used properly, and it is a tool. Because we as humans have 6 senses. Yes, intuition is a first sense. It's the first one to develop into you. We use these 6 senses to take in from the outside world and regurgitate, for lack of a better term, reform and re-give to the world. So why don't we all work together to make a better system so that we don't come up with the negative form of narcissism. So things that will support this, videos that will support this, check out this one or that one, either one. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Thank you for commenting, and thank you for sharing your time with me today. Namaskar.